Good morning, football fans. Big Al here on this Tuesday, November 26th, 2024, and welcome into the Week 12 edition of the week that was, as we'll be taking a look at the player and team statistical numbers from all 13 games across week number 12 of the 2024 NFL season. Also coming up after the rundown, I'll have my Week 13 power rankings. I almost said 12 there. But it's my Week 13 power rankings coming up after the rundown. And then we'll take a look at the latest NFL playoff picture entering Week 13. But before we get into all that, I want to go ahead and get you updated on the latest AP and AFCA coaches polls as we enter the 14th and final week of the 2024 college football season. So let's waste no time and jump right in. Alright, so no changes with the top four in the AP poll. Oregon remains at number one. The Ducks are 11-0 with 1,525 points and all 61 first place votes. They were off last week. They'll finish the season off against the Washington Huskies. The Ohio State Buckeyes remain at number two. 10-1 record, 1,463 points. They, of course, blew away previously undefeated Indiana. And this week, the game against Michigan. Texas is at number three. The Longhorns are 10-1, 1,395 points. They easily beat Kentucky, and now they're heading on the road to face their longtime rival Texas A&M. Penn State, the Nittany Lions, stay at number four, 10-1 record, 1,301 points. Won a nail-biter at Minnesota. This week they'll close the regular season out against Maryland. Up one spot to number five are the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. 10-1 record, 1,278 points. They blasted previously ranked Army at Yankee Stadium on Saturday night. Now they're off to LA to face USC. Up two spots to number six are the Georgia Bulldogs. 9-2 record, 1,242 points. They easily dismantled Massachusetts, and this week they'll host their in-state matchup with Georgia Tech. At number seven, up three spots, are the Tennessee Volunteers. 9-2 record, 1,110 points. They shut out UTEP, and they'll finish the regular season in Nashville against their rivals, Vanderbilt. Up three spots to number eight, you've got the Miami Hurricanes. 10-1 record, 1,096 points. They easily defeated Wake Forest, and they'll finish the season off at Syracuse. Up four spots to number nine, you've got the SMU Mustangs. 10-1 record, 1,001 points. They blew away Virginia, and they finished the season out against Cal. Tied for the second biggest drop in the AP, the third biggest drop in the AP. Moving down five spots to number 10. The previously undefeated Indiana Hoosiers, 10-1 record, 998 points. They, of course, lost at Ohio State, and they'll play their in-state rival Purdue this week. Moving up one spot to number 11, you've got the Boise State Broncos, 10-1 record, 984 points. Won a defensive game against Wyoming, and they'll finish off the regular season hosting Oregon. Up five spots to number 12, you got the Clemson Tigers. 9-2 record, 789 points. They blew away the Citadel, and this week they will host South Carolina. More on where the Gamecocks are ranked shortly. Down six spots to number 13, and pretty much out of the race for the college football playoff at this point, the Alabama Crimson Tide. 8-3 record, 739 points. They lost at Oklahoma 24-3, and this week they'll play the Iron Bowl against Auburn, and that's being played in Tuscaloosa. The Arizona State Sun Devils have the biggest jump in this week's AP poll, up 7 spots to number 14. 9-2 record, 727 points. They won over BYU last week, and this week they will face the Arizona Wildcats down in Tucson for the Territorial Cup. Dropping 6 spots to number 15, the Ole Miss Running Rebels, 8-3 record, 661 points. They lost in the Swamp to Florida last week, and they'll host their in-state rivals, Mississippi State. Up 3 spots to number 16 are the South Carolina Gamecocks, 8-3 record, 639 points. They beat up Wofford 56-12, and this week they hit the road to face 12th ranked Clemson. The Iowa State Cyclones are up 5 spots to number 17, 9-2 record, 488 points, won a nail-biter against Utah, and they finished the season out against Kansas State. Up 2 spots to number 18 are the Tulane Green Wave, 9-2 record, 446 points. Off in week 13, they'll close the regular season off against a very tough Memphis team. The next 2 teams both fell 5 spots. You've got BYU down 5 spots to number 19 and Texas A&M down 5 spots to number 20. The Cougars are 9-2 with 445 points, losing at Arizona State. They'll finish off the regular season hosting Houston in the Battle of the Cougars. The Texas A&M Aggies at number 20 are also 8-3 with 399 points. They lost a shootout to Auburn, and this week, tough game with number 3 Texas. The UNLV Running Rebels are up 2 spots to number 21, 9-1 record, 231 points. They won at San Jose State last week, and they'll finish up against Nevada. The Illinois Fighting Illini also up 2 spots to number 22. 8-3 record, 188 points. They beat Rutgers in a shootout, and this week they'll travel to Northwestern to face the Wildcats. The Colorado Buffaloes are tied for the biggest drop in this week's AP poll, down 7 spots to number 23. 8-3 record, 161 points, of course, losing at Kansas 37-21. They'll host winless Oklahoma State this week. That's winless in the Big 12. Returning to the AP poll at number 24, you've got the Missouri Tigers. 8-3 record, 142 points. They beat up Mississippi State 39-20, and this week they'll host Arkansas. And also tied for the biggest drop this week, you've got the Army Black Knights, down 7 spots to number 25. 9-1 record, and 133 points. They got blown out in the Bronx Saturday night by Notre Dame, 49-14. And they'll finish the regular season against the Roadrunners of UTSA. Only one team dropped from the rankings, and that's Washington State, previously at 25. That brings us to the others receiving votes category, with Kansas State getting 98 points. Memphis 46, Syracuse 37, Louisville 24, Washington State 10, Duke 6, Louisiana 5, Florida 4, LSU 2, and Georgia Tech with 2. So that's the latest AP poll going into the final week of the regular season. Now let's take a look at the current AFCA coaches poll. And it's the same top 4 as it is in the AP. With Oregon at number 1, 11-0 record, 1,375 points, and all 55 first place votes. Then it's Ohio State at number 2, 10-1 record, 1,318 points. Number 3 is Texas, 10-1 record, 1,267 points. And number 4 is Penn State, 10-1, 1,175 points. Notre Dame's up a spot to number 5 at 10-1 and 1,150 points. Georgia moves up 2 spots to number 6, 9-2 record, 1,103 points. Number 7, you've got the Miami Hurricanes, 10-1 record, 1,023 points. Tennessee is up 3 spots to number 8, 9-2 record, 972 points. SMU moves up 3 spots to number 9, 10-1 record, 917 points. Down 5 spots to number 10, you've got Indiana, 10-1 record, 867 points. Boise State's up a couple to number 11, 10-1 record, 838 points. Clemson moves up 4 spots to number 12, 9-2 and 780 points. Drop in 6 spots to 13 is Alabama, 8-3 record, 621 points. Up 5 spots to number 14, you've got South Carolina, 8-3 record, 596 points. Arizona State has the biggest jump in the coaches poll, up 7 spots to 15, 9-2 record, 592 points. Biggest drop is Ole Miss, down 7 spots to number 16, 8-3 record, 569 points. Iowa State moves up 4 spots to number 17, 9-2 record, and 473 points. Number 18 is Tulane, 9-2 record, 434 points. They're up a couple spots. Texas A&M falls 5 spots to number 19, 8-3 record, 357 points. BYU also fell 5 spots to number 20, 9-2 record, 329 points. UNLV's up a couple spots to number 21, 9-2 record, 205 points. Army fell 5 spots to number 22, 9-1 record, 165 points. Memphis moves up 1 spot to number 23, 9-2 record, 151 points. Missouri returns to the coaches poll at number 24, 8-3 record, 148 points. And Illinois also returns to the coaches poll at number 25, 8-3 record, 132 points. Colorado and Kansas State both dropped from the coaches poll rankings. Colorado was at 18, Kansas State at 25. And these two teams lead the others receiving votes category, with K-State getting 124 points and Colorado 115. You also have Duke with 31, Syracuse 19, Louisville 8, Louisiana 7, Washington State 6, LSU 3, Iowa, James Madison, Baylor, Miami of Ohio, and Georgia Tech, each with 1 point. Okay, those are the latest AP and coaches poll rankings. Now, if you're looking for the college football playoff rankings, those will be released later tonight at about 7:30 Eastern time. And I will be back on here tomorrow during my Week 13 NFL picks with those latest college football rankings. Now, I left my information by the bed. I will be right back. Okay, where is it? Here's the power rankings. I think this is, yep. Okay, I'm back. Now we can jump into the Week 12 edition of the week that was. But before we do, like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. Ring the bell and get notified every time I go live. And off we go. Starting off with Thursday Night Football, as the Cleveland Browns upset the Pittsburgh Steelers by a final score of 24-19 to improve to 3-8 on the season, while the Steelers dropped to 8-3. We'll start off with individual numbers for the Cleveland Browns. Jameis Winston was 18 of 27 for 219 yards with no touchdowns and 1 interception and a 76 QB rating. Nick Chubb paced the Browns' ground attack. 20 carries, 59 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Jameis Winston ran 3 times for 7 yards and a touchdown as well. And Jerome Ford was 4 carries for 19 yards. Good game for Jerry Jeudy as he paced the Browns receivers with 6 catches, 85 yards on 6 targets. Jordan Atkins, 3 catches, 38 yards on 4 targets. Cedric Tillman had 2 catches, 28 yards on 4 targets. And Elijah Moore had 3 catches, 21 yards on 5 targets. Dustin Hopkins, 1 for 1 on field goals, long as 34. 1 for 1 on extra points. Corey Bojorquez, 3 punts, averaging just 30.7. Long punt was 41 with a touchback and a punt inside the 20-yard line. Leading tackler for the Browns was Grant Delpit. He had 10 tackles. Martin Emerson Jr. had 6 solo tackles. Juan Thornhill, 7 tackles. Mohamed Diabate, 6 tackles. Denzel Ward, 5 tackles. Devin Bush had 6 tackles. Myles Garrett had himself a night. He's my defensive player of the week, and I have to choose between 2 other players as well. But Garrett comes out on top here. He had 5 tackles, 3 sacks, and a forced fumble. Meanwhile, Jordan Hicks added 6 tackles and a sack for the Cleveland Browns. For the Steelers, Russell Wilson was 21 of 28 for 270 with 1 touchdown and no interceptions. QB rating of 116.7. He ran 3 times for 10 yards as well. Justin Fields attempted a pass for a 39.6 QB rating and ran 3 times for 26 yards. Jaylen Warren, 11 carries, 45 yards and a touchdown. Najee Harris, 16 carries, 41 yards. Calvin Austin III led the Steelers receivers with 3 catches, 78 yards, and a touchdown on 3 targets. Pat Freiermuth, 4 for 59 on 4 targets. George Pickens, 4 catches, 48 yards on 7 targets. Van Jefferson, 2 catches, 39 yards on 2 targets. Jaylen Warren, 3 catches, 19 yards on 5 targets. Darnell Washington had 3 catches, 14 yards on 3 targets. And Najee Harris had 2 catches, 13 yards on 2 targets. Chris Boswell, 2 for 3 on field goals, long was 48, 1 for 1 on extra points. One punt by Corliss Waitman for 15 yards. Joey Porter Jr. had 6 tackles. Deshaun Elliott had 6 tackles as well, plus a forced fumble and a pass defense. Nick Herbig, 5 tackles, the Steelers' only sack of the night, and a forced fumble. Dante Jackson finishes with 3 solo tackles, a pass defense, and an interception. Minkah Fitzpatrick, 3 solo tackles and a forced fumble. Patrick Queen, 7 tackles and a pass defense. And Cam Hayward, 6 tackles and 2 passes defense for the Steelers. Total yards, 368 for Pittsburgh, 304 for Cleveland. Passing yards, 248 to 219 for the Steelers. Rush yards, 120 to 85 for the Steelers as well. Both teams had 17 first downs. Pittsburgh was 7 of 16 on 3rd down and 1 for 3 on 4th down. Meanwhile, Cleveland just 1 for 10 on fourth down, but a perfect 4 for 4 on fourth down. 6 penalties, 39 yards for the Steelers, 4 sacks taken for 22, 1 lost fumble, no interceptions, and 1 punt. Again for 15 yards. 8 penalties, 48 yards for the Browns, only 1 sack taken for no loss, 2 lost fumbles, 1 interception, and 3 punts. The Steelers barely got into ball hawk territory as they possessed the ball for 35 minutes and 2 seconds, and the Browns for 24 minutes 58 seconds. If you're new here, a ball hawk is a team that possesses the ball in a football game for at least 35 minutes, win or lose. In this case, the Steelers lost despite having 35 minutes time of possession. Closing line was Pittsburgh minus 3.5, and the over-under was 36.5. They just went over that total with 43. I took the Steelers to win and cover, and I lost both picks. And as we go along, I'll tell you how I did with my straight up and spread picks this week. On to Sunday, we'll start with the Dallas Cowboys. Got big contributions from their special teams in a 34-26 upset victory over the Washington Commanders in our nation's capital. Dallas improves to 4-7 and snaps a 5-game losing streak in the process, while the Washington Commanders are going the wrong way here. They've now dropped 3 in a row to drop to 7-5. We'll begin with individual numbers for the Dallas Cowboys. Cooper rushed 24 of 32, 247 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, and a 117.6 QB rating, plus 4 carries for just 1 yard. Rico Dowdle, 19 carries, 86 yards. Leading the Dallas receivers is CeeDee Lamb, 10 catches, 67 yards on 12 targets. Luke Schoonmaker, who started at tight end for the injured Jake Ferguson. He had 3 catches, 55 yards, and a touchdown on 4 targets. Jalen Brooks, just 1 catch, but it was a big one for 41 yards on 3 targets. Brevin Spanford, 2 catches, 24 yards on 2 targets. And Jalen Tolbert, 2 catches, 22 yards, and a touchdown on 4 targets. And Rico Dowdle, 3 catches, 12 yards on 3 targets. Brandon Aubrey, 2 for 4 on field goals. Long was 48, 4 for 4 on extra points. 6 punts by Brian Enger, averaging 39.7. Long punt 56 with 3 inside the 20-yard line. Alright, Josh Butler had a pretty good game for the Cowboys. He had 12 tackles, a sack, and 3 passes defensed. Eric Kendricks, 10 tackles. Micah Parsons, 8 tackles and 2 sacks. Deron Bland, making his season debut for Dallas, had 6 tackles. Jordan Lewis, 6 tackles, a forced fumble, and a pass defensed. 4 tackles for Malik Hooker. 4 tackles and a forced fumble by Donovan Wilson. And DeMarvion Overshown added a sack to go along with his 3 tackles. For the Commanders, Jaden Daniels, 25 of 38, 275 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions, and an 82.7 QB rating, plus 7 carries, 74 yards, and a touchdown to lead Washington's run game. Austin Eckler didn't do much running the ball in this game, 9 carries, 22 yards. I think he has a concussion. Let's see if they talk about it here. Yes. According to Commanders coach Dan Quinn, Austin Eckler is in concussion protocol, so we'll see if he plays this week against Tennessee. On to the receivers. Terry McLaurin, 5 catches, 102 yards, and a touchdown on 6 targets. By the way, that touchdown went for 86 yards, which pulled Washington to within a point. Noah Brown, 6 catches, 71 yards on 10 targets. Zach Ertz, 6 for 38 and a touchdown on 8 targets. And Dyami Brown, 2 catches, 22 yards on 2 targets. Austin Seibert back kicking for the Commanders after being hurt the last couple of weeks. He went 2 for 3 on field goals. Long was 51 and 0 for 2 on extra points. Tress Way, 6 punts, averaging 41.2, long punt 51. 5 of his 6 punts landed inside the 20-yard line. Good job. Okay, Bobby Wagner and Frankie Louvu had 8 tackles apiece to pace Washington's defense. Louvu also added 3 passes defense. Benjamin St. Juste had 6 tackles. Quan Martin with 7 tackles. Mike Sanderstil, 6 tackles and a pass defense. Noah Egbenogini finished with 4 tackles. And Jeremy Chin had 3 tackles and a pass defense. Deron Payne added a sack with his 4 tackles. And Jerzon Newton had a forced fumble plus 4 tackles. Total yards, Washington 412, Dallas 332. Passing yards favored Washington 267 to 241. Rush yards also favored Washington 145 to 91. Each team had 19 first downs, and both were terrible on third down. 2 of 11 for the Cowboys, 4 of 12 for Washington. 4 penalties, 20 yards for Dallas, 1 sack taken for 6, 1 lost fumble, no interceptions, and 6 punts. 8 penalties, 78 yards for the Commanders, 4 sacks taken for 8 yards, 1 lost fumble, 2 interceptions, and 6 punts as well. Dallas is in ball hawk territory as they possessed the ball for 35 minutes, 12 seconds to 24 minutes, 48 seconds for the Commanders. Closing line was Washington minus 10.5, over under 44.5. I picked the Commanders to win and to cover. I initially had this as my lock of the week, but I changed it to another game, and thank God I did, because Dallas ends up winning and covering going away. Alright, so the total was 44.5. This game finished over at 60. So now I'm 0-2 with my straight up and ATS picks. Okay. Next we have the Detroit Lions going into Indianapolis and taking down the Colts 24-6. The Lions' win streak has hit 9, their longest since their first season in Detroit back in 1934. They are now 10-1 on the season. Meanwhile, the Colts, fading away in the AFC playoff race, they are now 5-7. We'll start with individual numbers for the Lions. Jared Goff was 26 of 36 for 269 with no touchdowns or interceptions. He had a 93.4 QB rating. And he ran twice for no yards. Sonic and Knuckles providing the touchdowns for the Lions on Sunday. Sonic, a.k.a. Jahmyr Gibbs, 21 carries, 90 yards, and 2 touchdowns. And Knuckles, a.k.a. David Montgomery, 8 carries, 37 yards, and a touchdown. I think, yes, David Montgomery did injure his shoulder in this game, did not practice yesterday. I think he's 50-50 on playing Thursday against the Bears. We shall see what happens, though. Jameson Williams led the Lions receivers with 5 catches, 64 yards on 7 targets. Amon-Ra St. Brown, 6 for 62, also on 7 targets. Tim Patrick, 4 catches, 55 yards on 4 targets. David Montgomery added 36 yards on 3 catches and 3 targets. Brock Wright with 2 catches, 24 yards on 2 targets. Kind of a quiet day for Sam Laporta, 3 catches, 19 yards on 6 targets. And Jahmyr Gibbs added 3 catches, 9 yards on 3 targets. Jake Bates, 1 for 1 on field goals. Long was 56. He is still perfect in making field goals this season. 3 for 3 on extra points. Jack Fox with 4 punts, averaging 48. Long punt was 60. All 4 of his punts ended up inside the 20-yard line. The leading tackler for Detroit was Jack Campbell with 9 tackles plus 2 passes defensed. Malcolm Rodriguez had 8 tackles. Brian Branch had 4 tackles, as did Kirby Joseph. And that's pretty much it, unless you talk about Alim McNeil, who had 1 solo tackle and a forced fumble. For the Colts, another bad game for Anthony Richardson. 11-28, 172 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions, 60.4 QB rating, but he did lead the team with 10 carries, 61 yards rushing. Jonathan Taylor was held to 11 carries, 35 yards. Michael Pittman, 6 catches, 96 yards on 7 targets. Alec Pierce, 1 catch, 39 yards on 4 targets. And Josh Downs, 3 catches, 27 yards on 7 targets. Matt Gay, 2 for 2 on field goals. Long was 29, no extra points. Rigoberto Sanchez, 6 punts, averaging 52.8. Long punt, 62. 2 punts inside the 20-yard line. Zaire Franklin led the charge for the Colts defense with 13 tackles and a sack. Nick Cross had a team-high 14 tackles. EJ Speed not too far behind them with 11 tackles. Kwity Paye 3 solo tackles. DeForest Buckner 7 tackles and a sack. Julian Blackman 4 tackles and a pass defense. And rookie Laiatu Latu had 4 tackles, a sack, and a forced fumble. Alright. Total yards, 390 for the Lions and 268 for the Colts. Passing yards, 253 to 172. Rush yards, 137 to 96, both favoring the Detroit Lions, as is first downs. Detroit had 26 first downs versus just 11 for Indy. On third down, the Lions finished 9 of 15, while the Colts were 3 for 12. Both teams 0 for 1 on fourth down. 5 penalties, 45 yards for the Lions, 3 sacks taken for 16, no lost fumbles or interceptions, and 4 punts. 10 penalties, 75 yards for the Colts, no sacks taken, no lost fumbles, no interceptions, and 6 punts. The Lions are in ball hawk territory at 37 minutes and 1 second. The Colts 22 minutes 59 seconds in time of possession. Closing line was Detroit -7. Over-under was 50.5. This game finished well under the mark at 30. I took the Lions to win and to cover, and I get my first win both straight up and ATS this week. Moving on to the Kansas City Chiefs at the Carolina Panthers, and this was a closer game than Andy Reid was expecting. The Panthers played very, very well, but it's the Chiefs who end up winning this in the end, 30-27, moving their record to 10-1. And again, Carolina looking very impressive in a losing cause as they drop to 3-8. We'll begin with individual numbers for the Chiefs. Patrick Mahomes, typical game for him, 27 of 37, 269, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, and a 120.2 passer rating. And it was very effective in the ground game, 5 carries for 60 yards. Kareem Hunt led the rushing attack for KC, 16 carries, 68 yards. Okay, top receivers for the Chiefs include Noah Gray, 4 catches, 66 yards, and 2 scores on 4 targets. Travis Kelce, 6 for 62 on 8 targets. Xavier Worthy, 4 for 46 on 6 targets. DeAndre Hopkins, 5 catches, 35 yards, and a touchdown on 6 targets. And Kareem Hunt, 3 catches, 19 yards on 4 targets. Spencer Schrader, rookie kicker out of Notre Dame, in for the injured veteran Harrison Butker. Schrader went 3 for 3 on field goals, Long was 41, and 3 for 3 on extra points. Matt Araiza, just 2 punts averaging 47 yards, long punt was 48, with 1 inside the 20-yard line. Looking at the Kansas City defense, Nazeez Johnson had 8 tackles in a pass defense. Justin Reed, 6 tackles. Mike Dana, 4 solo tackles, a sack, and a forced fumble. Brian Cook, 7 tackles. Trent McDuffie, 4 tackles, half a sack, and 1 pass defense. Nick Bolton had 4 tackles and a half sack as well. Drew Tranquill with 4 tackles. And Jaden Hicks with 3 tackles. And let's not forget about Shamari Connor. He had 4 tackles. For the Carolina Panthers, Bryce Young playing one of his best games. 21 of 35 for 263 yards, 1 touchdown, no interceptions, quarterback rating of 92.9, plus 3 carries, 20 yards. Chuba Hubbard, 16 carries, 58 yards, and a touchdown to lead Carolina's ground attack. That's the wrong one. Here we go. David Moore, 6 catches, 81 yards, and a touchdown on 10 targets, led the Panthers receivers. Adam Thielen, 3 catches, 57 yards on 4 targets. Xavier Legette, 4 catches, 56 yards on 6 targets. Jatavian Sanders, 3 catches, 49 yards on 3 targets. And Devin Tompkins, 3 catches, 13 yards on 3 targets. Eddie Pinheiro, 4 for 4 on field goals. Long was 33, 1 for 1 on extra points. Johnny Hecker, 2 punts averaging 51.5, long punt 55, 1 punt inside the 20-yard line. The leading tackler for the Panthers was Josie Jewell. He had 9 tackles plus a sack. Xavier Woods had 8 tackles and a pass defense. J.C. Horn, 6 solo tackles and a sack. A'Shawn Robinson, 8 tackles. Jordan Fuller, 5 solo tackles and a forced fumble. Mike Jackson, 4 tackles and a pass defense. DJ Wonnum, 5 tackles and a sack. Sam Franklin Jr., 4 tackles. And Charlotte area native Jadeveon Clowney, who was born and raised in Rock Hill, South Carolina, which is south of Charlotte. He had 3 tackles and 1.5 sacks. Total yards, Kansas City 391, Carolina 334. Passing yards, 249 to 226 for the Panthers. Rush yards was 165 to 85 in favor of the Chiefs. First downs also in favor of the Chiefs. 27-21. Third downs, Kansas City 8 of 13, Carolina 5 of 13. The Chiefs finished 1 for 1 on fourth down, while the Panthers were 2 for 2. And there were a lot of penalties in this game. 19 accepted flags, 10 by the Chiefs for 91 yards, 5 sacks taken for 43. No lost fumbles, no interceptions, and 2 punts. 9 penalties, 53 yards for the Panthers, 2 sacks taken for 14, no lost fumbles, no interceptions, and 2 punts as well. Time of possession, Kansas City 32 minutes 16 seconds, Carolina 27 minutes and 44 seconds. Closing line was Kansas City minus 10.5, over under is 43. I picked the Chiefs to win straight up, and I took them to cover as well, but since Carolina only lost by 3, the Panthers covered as the big home underdog. So I am now 2-2 on my straight up picks and 1-3 in my ATS picks, but I do hit my lock of the week, which is now 10-2 on the season. Hey, it's Check MP. What's up, my brother? Thanks for dropping by. Okay, who's next up on my list? Alright, we got another divisional matchup as the Minnesota Vikings defeat the Chicago Bears, or should I say the free-falling Chicago Bears, in overtime, 30-27, as the Vikings move to 9-2. For Chicago, that's 5 straight losses. They are now 4-7. Let's look at individual numbers for the Vikings. Sam Darnold, 22 of 34, 330 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, 116.1 QB rating. Backup Nick Mullins, 1 for 1 for 14 yards and a 118.8 QB rating. Great game for Aaron Jones, 22 carries, 106 yards, and a touchdown. And 3 catches, 23 yards on 4 targets. Even better game for Jordan Addison. 8 catches, 162, and a touchdown on 9 targets. TJ Hawkinson, 7 catches, 114 on 9 targets. Justin Jefferson was pretty much a non-factor. 2 catches, 27 yards on 5 targets, so he was pretty much held in check. Jalen Naylor had 1 catch for 5 yards and a touchdown on 2 targets. John Parker Romo, 3 for 3 on field goals. Long was 40, 3 for 3 on extra points. Ryan Wright, 4 punts, averaging 41.8. Long punt 46, with 1 inside the 20. Harrison Smith led the Vikings defense with 11 tackles, including 9 solo. Byron Murphy, 8 tackles. Jonathan Grenard has 6 tackles, 2 sacks, and a forced fumble, rather. Josh Metellus, 7 tackles. Andrew Van Ginkel, 7 tackles, a sack, and a pass defense. Jonathan Bullard, 5 tackles. Cam Bynum had 5 tackles and a pass defense. And Stephon Gilmore, same thing, 5 tackles and a pass defense for the Vikings. For the Chicago Bears, Caleb Williams threw the ball a lot. 32 of 47 for 340 yards with 2 touchdowns and no interceptions and a 103.1 QB rating. DJ Moore attempted a pass for a 39.6 QB rating. Caleb Williams led the poorest Chicago run game. 6 carries, 33 yards. DeAndre Swift held to 30 yards on 13 carries. Roschon Johnson did score a touchdown for Chicago. DJ Moore, 7 catches, 106, and a touchdown on 7 targets. Keenan Allen, 9 catches, 86 yards, and a touchdown on 15 targets. Cole Kmet, 7 catches, 64 yards on 10 targets. Roma Dunze, 5 catches, 39 yards on 10 targets. And DeAndre Swift, 3 for 35 on 4 targets. Cairo Santos, 2 for 3 on field goals. Long was 49. 1 for 1 on extra points. Torrey Taylor, 6 punts, averaging 48.7. Long punt 54. 1 punt inside the 20-yard line. Kevin Byard paced the Bears defense with 13 tackles. Tremaine Edmonds, 9 tackles and a pass defense. Jonathan Owens, 8 tackles and a forced fumble. TJ Edwards, 9 tackles. Jervon Dexter Sr., 5 tackles and a pass defense. Sorry about that. DeMarcus Walker with 5 tackles and a sack. Kyler Gordon, 4 tackles and 2 passes defense. Montez Sweat, 3 tackles and a sack for the Bears. Total yards, 452 for the Vikings and 398 for the Bears. Passing yards slightly favors the Vikings, 328 to 320. Rush yards also favors the Vikings, 124 to 78. Minnesota had 22 first downs versus 20 for Chicago. 6 of 13 on third downs were the Vikings and 6 of 17 for the Bears. Minnesota 0 for 1 on fourth down, Chicago 2 for 3. 5 penalties, 45 yards for the Vikings, 3 sacks taken for 16. 1 lost fumble, no interceptions, and 4 punts. 7 penalties, 80 yards for the Bears, 3 sacks taken for 20, with 1 lost fumble, no interceptions, and 6 punts. And both teams nearly got into ball hawk territory. Chicago possessed for 34 minutes, 24 seconds, and the Vikings 33 minutes and 26 seconds. Closing line was Minnesota minus 3. Over-under was 39.5. I took the Vikings to win and to cover. Since I got this game at 3.5, I'll take the ATS loss here, so that makes me 1-4. But I am 3-2 with my straight up picks, as I did take the Vikings to win outright. Meanwhile, in the AFC East, the Miami Dolphins are starting to get hot once again. They defeat the New England Patriots 34-15 to move their record to 5-6, including 3 straight wins. The Patriots are down to 3-9 with the loss. And we will begin with individual numbers for the Dolphins. Tua Tagovailoa, 29 of 40 for 317, 4 touchdowns, no interceptions, very impressive QB rating of 128.9. Tua is now 7-0 career against New England. Devin Achane held to 10 carries, 32 yards. And Jalen Wright held to 7 carries, 28 yards. But the big numbers came into receiving game. Jalen Waddle, 8 catches, 144, and a touchdown on 9 targets. Jonnu Smith, 9 for 87, and a touchdown on 11 targets. Tyreek Hill, a quiet 5 catches for 48 yards on 6 targets. Devin Achane had 3 catches, 24 yards, and 2 receiving touchdowns on 4 targets. Jason Sanders, 2 for 2 on field goals. Long was 51, 4 for 4 on extra points. Jake Bailey, 5 punts, averaging 48. Long punt 53, 2 inside the 20-yard line. Jordan Brooks was Miami's leading tackler. He had 9. Jordan Poyer had 7 and a pass defense. Javon Holland, 6 tackles. Zach Sealer, 4 tackles, a sack, and a forced fumble. And Jalen Ramsey, 4 tackles, a sack, and a pass defense. Tyrell Dodson, 5 tackles, a pass defense, and an interception. Cater Cole, who had 4 tackles. Chop Robinson, this is the rookie from Penn State, rookie linebacker. He had 4 tackles, 1.5 sacks, and 2 passes defense for the Dolphins. Over on the Patriots side of things, Drake May was 22 of 37 for 222 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, and a 74.4 QB rating. Kendrick Bourne attempted a pass and finished with a 39.6 QB rating. Not much to say here with the runners. Antonio Gibson led the way with 6 carries, 31 yards. Drake May added 5 carries, 26 yards. Their featured back, Ramondre Stevenson, was limited to 8 carries, 13 yards. That's 1.6 yards per attempt, which is not good. Alright, Demario Douglas led the Patriots receivers. 5 catches, 62 yards on 7 targets. Austin Hooper, 4 for 59 and a touchdown on 4 targets. Hunter Henry, 5 catches, 44 yards on 8 targets. And the aforementioned Kendrick Bourne, who attempted a pass in this game, had 3 catches for 30 yards on 5 targets. Joey Sly, 0 for 1 on field goals, 1 for 1 on extra points. And Bryce Beringer, 5 punts averaging 51.8, long punts 69, 1 touchback, 2 inside the 20-yard line. Alright, so we have 2 players that led the team in tackles. You've got Marcus Jones, who had 8 tackles and 3 passes defense. And Jelani Tavai, also with 8 tackles and 1 pass defense. 6 tackles and 1 pass defense for Kyle Duggar. 6 tackles for Jonathan Jones. 6 tackles for Anthony Jennings. Christian Ellis has 4 tackles and a pass defense. Christian Barmore, 2 solo tackles and a sack. Marte Mapu had 3 tackles, a forced fumble, and 2 passes defense for the Patriots. Total yards, 373 for the Dolphins and 269 for the Pats. Passing yards favored Miami, 308 to 183. Rush yards, which were hard to come by in this game, favored New England, 86 to 65. The Dolphins had 23 first downs, the Patriots had 14. Both teams not good on third down. 3 of 14 for New England and 4 of 12 for Miami. The Patriots were also 1 for 3 on fourth down. 10 penalties, 75 yards for New England, 4 sacks taken for 39, 1 lost fumble, 1 interception, and 5 punts. 3 penalties, 17 yards for the Dolphins, 2 sacks taken for 9, 1 lost fumble, no interceptions, and 5 punts. Time of possession was 32 minutes 4 seconds for Miami, 27 minutes 56 seconds for New England. Closing line was Miami minus 7.5, over under 45.5, and they barely got over that mark at 49. I took the Dolphins to win, the Patriots to cover, so I am now 4-2 straight up, and an abysmal 1-5 in my spread picks. So it's like I'm reverting back to old ways. Oops. Let me get my Sports Alerts app back on here. And we can move on to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who flat out destroyed the New York Giants 30-7 in the first game post Daniel Jones. Tampa Bay goes to 5-6, keeps their hopes at the NFC South title alive, while the New York Giants drop to 2-9 And they're pretty much done as far as the playoffs are concerned, even with 6 games left. We'll start with individual numbers for the Buccaneers. Great game for Baker Mayfield. 24 of 30 for 294. No touchdowns or interceptions, but he did have a 107.5 QB rating. Mayfield also added 4 rushes, 29 yards. He also added 4 rushes, 29 yards, and a rushing touchdown. Okay, Bucky Irving, 12 carries, 87 yards, and a rushing touchdown. Rachaad White, 12 for 37 and a rushing touchdown. And even Sean Tucker had a rushing touchdown in this game. 4 carries, 3 yards, plus that TD. Mike Evans welcomed back to the Tampa Bay lineup and put up 5 catches for 68 yards on 6 targets. Bucky Irving has 6 catches, 64 yards on 6 targets. Only other receiver we'll talk about is Sam Shepard. Or rather, Sterling Shepard. 5 catches, 16 yards on 7 targets. Chase McLaughlin, 1 for 1 on field goals, long was 23. And 3 for 4 on extra points. Trenton Gill, 2 punts averaging 40 yards, long 47, 1 inside the 20-yard line. Okay, Christian Izien, that's how you pronounce his last name. Izien, not Eisen. He had 10 tackles. Jordan Whitehead with 5 solo tackles, and I think... Alright. He did suffer a season-ending pectoral injury in the victory. So Jordan Whitehead is now done for the rest of 2024. That's bad. Zion McCollum, 7 tackles. KJ Britt, 5 tackles. Antoine Winfield Jr., 6 tackles, a sack, and a pass defense. And Levante David, he had 5 tackles, a forced fumble, and a pass defense. And you got a sack each from Anthony Nelson, Vita Vea, and Kalijah Kancey. For the New York Giants, Tommy DeVito, now the new starter for the Giants after Daniel Jones was released over the weekend. 21 of 31, 189 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions, 83.9 QB rating, 7 rushes, 32 yards. Tyrone Tracy Jr., 9 carries, 42 yards. Devin Singletary, 2 carries, 3 yards, and a rushing touchdown. The only points on the day for the Giants. Malik Neighbors, 6 catches, 64 yards on 9 targets. Wan'Dale Robinson, 5 for 47 on 5 targets. Theo Johnson, 3 catches, 39 yards. And Tyrone Tracy, 4 for 28 on 2 targets. Graham Gano, no field goals, and 1 for 1 on extra points. Jamie Gillen, 4 punts, averaging 42, long punt 53, 3 inside the 20. Micah McFadden led the Giants. He had 11 tackles. Tyler Nubin had 12 tackles. He actually led the team in tackles. He also had a pass defense. Bobby Okereke, 8 tackles and a forced fumble. Deontay Banks, 6 tackles and a pass defense. Drew Phillips, DRU, 8 tackles. And you have a forced fumble by Isaiah Simmons, plus 2 solo tackles. Total yards, Tampa Bay 450, New York 245. Pass yards are 294 to 169. Rush yards 156 to 76. And first downs 24 to 17, all in favor of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who finished 6 of 11 on 3rd down and 1 of 2 on 4th down. while the Giants were 5 of 11 on third down and 0 for 2 on fourth down. 4 penalties, 29 yards for the Bucs, no sacks taken, 1 lost fumble, no interceptions, 2 punts. 4 penalties, 42 yards for the Giants, 4 sacks taken for 23, 1 lost fumble, no interceptions, and 4 punts. Time of possession, 33 minutes, 59 seconds for Tampa, 26 minutes, 1 second for the New York Giants. Closing line is Tampa Bay -6, over under is 40. I picked the Bucs to win and cover, and I got both picks. So now I'm 5-2 straight up, 2-5 versus the spread. If you're joining late, you're watching the week that was, as we're taking a look at the player and team statistical numbers from every game across week 12 in the NFL. Earlier, before we began this recap, we did the latest AP and coaches polls going into the final week of the college football season. And if you stay tuned after the rundown, we will have my latest week 13 power rankings and a look at the NFL playoff picture. All that and more coming right up. But for now, let's jump back into the recap. Where the Tennessee Titans upset the AFC South leading Houston Texans in the Space City by a final of 32-27. This may have been the best game played by the Titans all year long. Tennessee improves to 3-8, while the Texans, since starting 5-1, they have now dropped 4 of 6. They now sit at 7-5 on the season. We'll start with individual numbers for the Titans, and one of the best games of the season for Will Levis. 18 of 24, 278 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception, 123.3 QB rating, plus 8 rushes, 10 yards. Tyler Boyd attempted a pass, went 0 for 1, and a 39.6 QB rating. Tony Pollard ran the ball effectively. 24 carries, 119, and a touchdown. That's about 5 yards per run. Calvin Ridley, 5 catches, 93 yards on 6 targets. Chig Okonkwo, 1 big catch for 70 yards and a touchdown on his only target. The aforementioned Tyler Boyd had 6 catches, 55 yards on 6 targets. And Nick Westbrook-Akine, 2 catches, 48 yards, including a 38-yard touchdown on 5 targets. And Tony Pollard, 3 catches, 10 yards on 5 targets. Nick Folk, 3 for 3 on field goals, long 56, 3 for 3 on extra points. Ryan Stonehouse, 5 punts, averaging 50, long 62, and 2 inside the 20. Defensively for the Titans, Kenneth Murray had 7 tackles, 2 passes defensed, and an interception. Roger McCreary, 6 tackles. Mike Brown, 5 tackles. Jarvis Brownlee Jr., 4 tackles, 3 passes defensed, and an interception. Both Harold Landry and Jeffrey Simmons added a sack apiece for Tennessee. Meanwhile, for the Houston Texans, C.J. Stroud, 20 of 33 for 247, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, 78.7 QB rating. 3 catches, 18 yards, or 3 rushes, 18 yards, I should say. They could not get the ground game going as Joe Mixon was also held in check, limited to 14 carries, 22 yards. Nico Collins led Houston's receivers with 5 catches, 92 yards, and a touchdown on 9 targets. Tank Dell, 3 for 72 on 5 targets. Cade Stover, 3 catches, 26 yards, and a touchdown on 4 targets. Joe Mixon, 5 for 23 on 6 targets. And Dalton Schultz, 2 catches, 20 yards on 2 targets. Kaimi Fairbairn, 2 for 3 on field goals. Long 54, 3 of 3 on extra points. Tommy Townsend, 5 punts, averaging 48, 52 long, or longest 52, and 4 inside the 20. Alright, Danielle Hunter was another player I thought about for Defensive Player of the Week. He had 7 tackles and 3 sacks, easily leading this Texans defense. Jimmy Ward has 6 solo tackles, a pass defense, and a 65-yard interception return for a touchdown. Aziz Al-Shaair, 8 tackles and a sack. Eric Murray had 5 tackles. Kamari Lassiter had 4 solo tackles. Henry Duotuo had 5 tackles and a pass defense. Derek Barnett finishes with 4 tackles and a sack. Tommy Togiel had a sack. Will Anderson Jr. had a couple sacks, each had 2 tackles. I mean, this was a sack party for the Houston Texans, and I'll tell you more in just a moment. Okay, total yards 369 for the Titans and 260 for the Texans. Passing yards, rush yards, and first downs all favored the Tennessee Titans. 237 passing yards to 220, 132 rush yards to 40, and 19 first downs to Houston's 12. 4 of 14 third downs for the Titans and 1 for 1 on fourth down. 3 of 13 for the Texans with no fourth downs. 6 penalties, 35 yards for Tennessee. How about 8 sacks taken? 8 for 41 yards. 2 lost fumbles, 1 interception, and 5 punts. 11 penalties, 81 yards for the Texans. 4 sacks taken for 27. No lost fumbles, 2 interceptions, and 5 punts also. Tennessee nearly in ball hawk territory. They possessed the ball for 34 minutes, 29 seconds. And the Texans 25 minutes, 31 seconds. Closing line, Houston -8, over under 41. Alright, they shot well over that at 59 points. I took Houston to win, Tennessee to cover. I lost a straight up pick, making me 5-3. But I won the ATS pick, upping my record to 3-5. Okay, we only have 3 late games this week, and we'll start off with the Denver Broncos, who ends up sweeping the Raiders in a season series for the first time since 2014, as Denver gets their first ever win in Vegas, 29-19 over the Raiders. The Broncos, presently in the number 7 and final playoff spot in the AFC, improves its record to 7-5, while the Las Vegas Raiders drop to 2-9. Let's take a look at individual numbers for the Broncos. How about Bo Nix? Pretty good game for him. 25 of 42, 273 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, and a 94.6 QB rating. Plus 1 rush for 5 yards. Jaleel McLaughlin, 7 carries, 44 yards. Audric Estime, 3 carries, 15 yards. Leading receivers for the Broncos include Courtland Sutton, 8 catches, 97 yards, and 2 touchdowns on 10 targets. Devon Vele, 6 catches, 80 yards on 9 targets. Marvin Mims Jr., 3 for 44 on 5 targets. And Troy Franklin, 2 catches, 31 yards on 4 targets. Will Lutz, 5 for 5 on field goals, longest 54, 2 for 2 on extra points. And Riley Dixon finished with 4 punts, averaging 48, long punt of 54, and 2 inside the 20-yard line. Okay, you had 3 Broncos with 6 tackles. Cody Barton, PJ Locke, and Jaquan McMillan. They all have 6 tackles. Barton added a half sack and a pass defensed. Speaking of which, Brandon Jones, 5 solo tackles, 2 passes defensed, and an interception. Riley Moss, 4 solo tackles and a pass defense. Pat Surtain, 4 total tackles and a pass defense. Nick Bonito, 3 solo tackles, a sack, and a forced fumble. Jonah Ellis added a sack. Malcolm Roach added a sack. And Jonathan Cooper added half a sack for Denver. Over on the Raiders side of the ledger, Gardner Minshew II, 25 of 42, 230 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, and a 72.5 passer rating, plus 2 rushes, 5 yards. Minshew left the game after suffering a broken collarbone and is out for the rest of the season. So it looks like Vegas is going back to Aiden O'Connell. Desmond Ridder came in, finished 5 of 10 for 64 yards and a 70.4 QB rating. And how about the punter AJ Cole, completing a pass for 34 and a 118.8 QB rating. Okay, leading rushers are Sincere McCormick, 5 carries, 33 yards, and Amir Abdullah, 8 for 28. Alright, Jacoby Myers, pretty good game for him. 10 catches, 121 on 15 targets. Trey Tucker, 7 catches, 82 yards on 8 targets. Brock Bowers, 4 grabs, 38 yards on 10 targets. And the aforementioned Amir Abdullah, 5 catches, 37 yards, and a touchdown reception on 6 targets. Daniel Carlson, 4 for 4 on field goals, longest 53, 1 for 1 on extra points. And the aforementioned AJ Cole, who completed a pass in this game, had 4 punts, averaging 47.5, long was 60, no touchbacks, and 2 inside the 20-yard line. The leading tackler for the Las Vegas Raiders is Kamarion Richardson with 8 tackles and a pass defense. Jack Jones had 7 solo tackles and a pass defense. Max Crosby, 5 tackles. Isaiah Polamau, 6 tackles and a pass defense. Robert Spillane, 5 tackles. Divine Diablo, 5 tackles as well. Tyree Wilson, 4 tackles and a sack. .369 yards of offense for the Raiders, 325 for the Broncos. Passing yards are 300 to 262 Las Vegas. Rush yards are 69-63 Las Vegas. First downs also favored the Raiders, 21-19. Denver 6 of 15 on third down. Vegas 4 for 14 on third down, 2 for 2 on fourth down. 6 penalties, 58 yards for the Broncos, 1 sack taken for 11, no lost fumbles, no interceptions, and 4 punts. 4 penalties, 44 yards for the Raiders, 5 sacks taken for 28, 1 lost fumble, 1 interceptions, 4 punts. Time of possession, 31 minutes, 11 seconds for the Broncos, 28 minutes, 49 seconds for the Raiders. Closing line is Denver -5, over under 41.5. Took the Broncos to win, but the Raiders to cover. So I am now 6-3 straight up and 3-6 ATS. Okay, next up is a battle atop the log-jammed NFC West as the Seattle Seahawks play defense to hold down the Cardinals by a final of 16-6. Both teams are now 6-5 as Seattle takes over the division lead based on the head-to-head tiebreaker. We'll begin with individual numbers for the Seahawks. Geno Smith, 22 of 31, 254 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, 92.7 QB rating. 3 carries, 2 yards as well. Kenneth Walker, or K9, 16 carries, 41 yards. Zach Charbonnet, 6 carries, 22 yards. On to the receivers led by Jackson Smith and Jigba. 6 catches, 77 yards, and a touchdown for JSN on 7 targets. DK Metcalf, 4 for 59 on 5 targets. Kenneth Walker III, or K9 as he's known in Seattle. He had 4 catches, 52 yards on 6 targets. And Tyler Lockett, 2 for 20 yards on 3 targets. Jason Myers, 1 for 1 on field goals. Long was 50, 1 for 2 on extra points. Michael Dixon, 5 punts, averaging 43.6. Long was 52, 3 punts inside the 20. Ernest Jones was the leading tackler for the Seahawks. He had 10 tackles. Tyrese Knight had 9 tackles and a sack. Kobe Bryant had 6 solo tackles, a pass defense, and an interception return for a touchdown. 5 solo tackles for Devin Witherspoon. Reek Woolen, or the artist formerly known as Tariq Woolen, he had 4 solo tackles and a pass defense. And here was my other choice for Defensive Player of the Week, Leonard Williams. He had 6 tackles, 2.5 sacks, and a pass defense. Julian Love, 2 solo tackles and 2 passes defense. Jaron Reed added half a sack. And Boye Mafe added a full sack for the the Seahawks. And over to the Cardinals, Kyler Murray was 24 of 37 for 285, no touchdowns, 1 interception, 77 QB rating, and held to 9 yards on 2 carries. Yeah, not much to speak of when it comes to the Cardinals rushers. Trey Benson held to 4 carries, 18 yards. Amari DiMarcado, 1 carry for 14. And James Conner was definitely held in check, 7 carries, 8 yards. Not held in check was Trey McBride. The Cardinals tight end led Arizona in receiving with 12 catches, 133 yards on 15 targets. You've got 2 catches, 54 yards on 4 targets for Michael Wilson. 3 catches, 47 yards on 6 targets for Marvin Harrison. And 5 catches, 41 yards on 5 targets for James Conner. Chad Ryland, 2 for 3 on field goals. Long was 35 and no extra points. Blake Gillikin, 6 punts averaging 51.7. Long punt is 58 with 4 inside the 20. Okay, leading tackler for the Arizona Cardinals was Dadrin Taylor Demerson. 9 tackles and a pass defense. Kazir White, 8 tackles. Buda Baker, 7 tackles and a sack. Sean Murphy Bunting, 6 tackles. Zaven Collins, 3 solo tackles, a sack, a forced fumble, and a pass defense. Jesse Lakita, 3 solo tackles and a sack. Garrett Williams, 3 solo tackles, a pass defense, and an interception. Oops. Dante Stills added a sack, as did LJ Collier. Total yards was Arizona 298, Seattle 285. Passing yards favored the Cardinals 249 to 220. Rush yards favored Seattle 65 to 49, and rushing yards were very hard to come by in this game. 17 first downs for the Hawks, 15 for the Cards. Arizona was 3 of 12 on third down and 0 for 1 on fourth down, while Seattle was 7 of 14 on third down. 5 penalties, 60 yards for the Cardinals, 5 sacks taken for 36, no lost fumbles, 1 interception, and 6 punts. 5 penalties, 51 yards for the Seahawks, 5 sacks taken for 34, no lost fumbles, 1 interception, and 5 punts. Time of possession, 33 minutes, 13 seconds for the Seahawks, 26 minutes, 47 seconds for the Cardinals. Closing line was Arizona -1, over under 46.5, and they came nowhere near it. I took Seattle to win and cover, got both picks. I am 7-3 straight up and 4-6 in my spread picks. The last Sunday afternoon game saw the Green Bay Packers take out the injury-riddled San Francisco 49ers by a final score of 38-10 for their biggest ever victory over San Francisco in their series. The Packers go to 8-3 while the Niners drop below 500 at 5-6. Oops, wrong one. Here we go. Start with individual numbers for the Packers. Jordan Love just 13 of 23 for 163, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, and a 107.7 QB rating. Josh Jacobs, have yourself a day. 26 carries, 106 yards, 3 touchdowns. And that's pretty much it outside of Emmanuel Wilson, who had 9 carries, 41 yards. Romeo Doubs, 3 catches, 54 yards on 6 targets, but he did suffer a concussion and did not practice with the team on Monday. I think my prediction on Romeo Doubs, he probably will not play Thursday against Miami. That's my prediction there. Jaden Reed, 3 catches, 26 yards on 3 targets. Tucker Kraft, 2 catches, 26 yards and a touchdown on 2 targets. Malik Heath also had a touchdown reception in this game. 2 catches, 15 yards on 2 targets, plus that scored. Brandon McManus, 1 for 1 on field goals, long 51, 5 for 5 on extra points. Daniel Whelan, 4 punts, averaging 48.8, long 59, 1 punt inside the 20-yard line. Okay. Quay Walker had 7 tackles and a pass defense. Javon Bullard had 7 tackles. Xavier McKinney, 3 solo tackles, 2 passes defensed, and an interception. You have 4 tackles for both Eric Wilson and Evan Williams. Lucas Van Ness, 2 solo tackles, a sack, and a forced fumble. Same for Rashawn Gary. He had 2 total tackles, a sack, and a forced fumble. And Corey Ballantyne also added a forced fumble in this game. For the 49ers, Brandon Allen started for Brock Purdy, who hopes to return Sunday night against the Bills. Allen went 17 of 29 for 199, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, and a 76.7 QB rating. 76.7 QB rating, that's what I meant to say before I yawned. 2 carries, 5 yards. Christian McCaffrey shut down pretty much. 11 carries, 33 yards. 11 carries, 31 yards. And 3 catches, 37 yards on 4 targets. George Kittle, 6 catches, 82 yards, and a touchdown on 6 targets. Joan Jennings had 5 grabs, 40 yards on 7 targets. Jake Moody, 1 for 1 on field goals, long 48, 1 for 1 on extra points. Pat O'Donnell, 3 punts, averaging 49, long 56, 1 punt inside the 20. Isaac Guiadon, the Niners defense, with 9 tackles and a pass defense. Devondre Campbell Sr. with 8 tackles. Renardo Green, 5 tackles and a pass defense. Leonard Floyd, 4 tackles, 2 sacks. Malik Mustafa, 9 tackles. And Fred Warner, 6 tackles for the 49ers. Okay. Total yards, 325 for the Pack, 241 for the Niners. Passing yards favored San Francisco, 197-156. Meanwhile, rush yards easily favors Green Bay, 169-44. The Packers had twice the amount of first downs as the Niners, 22-11. San Francisco, 3 of 10 on third down, 0 for 2 on fourth down. Green Bay, 6 of 13 on third down, 1 for 2 on fourth down. 9 penalties, 77 yards for the Niners, 2 sacks taken for 2 yards, 2 lost fumbles, 1 interception, and 3 punts. 5 penalties, 40 yards for the Packers, 2 sacks taken for 7, no lost fumbles, no interceptions, and 4 punts. Green Bay is in ball hot territory. The Packers had the ball for 36 minutes, 43 seconds. Meanwhile, the Niners for just 23 minutes and 17 seconds. Closing line was Green Bay -6, over under 44.5. I don't know why I stuck. Sorry. I don't know why I stuck with the 49ers to win straight up and cover. This was probably my worst pick of the week. I lost both of them, obviously. I'm 7-4 straight up, 4-7 against the spread. Okay. Moving on to Sunday Night Football and a dominant performance by Saquon Barkley. We'll talk about that in a second. The Philadelphia Eagles remain red hot. They have now won 7 straight games after a 37-20 beating of the LA Rams. Philly now in firm control in the NFC East at 9-2. The Rams will join the 49ers at 5-6. We will now start with individual numbers for the EAGLES Eagles. Jalen Hurts, 15 of 22, 179 yards, 1 touchdown, no interceptions, and a 108 QB rating. Ran the ball pretty well too, 12 carries, 39 yards. Kenneth Gainwell, 5 carries, 22 yards, and a touchdown. But this night belonged to Saquon Barkley, who is easily my offensive player of the week, and here's why. He had 26 carries for a Philadelphia franchise record, 255 rush yards, and 2 touchdowns, averaging 9.8 per run. On top of that, he had 4 catches for 47 yards on 4 targets, averaging close to 12 yards per reception. So in all, this equals out to a 30-touch, 302-yard night for Saquon Barkley, who I think is firmly in the MVP conversations right now. Alright, A.J. Brown, 6 catches, 109 yards, and a touchdown on 7 targets led Phillies receivers. Dallas Goedert, 4 catches, 19 yards on 5 targets. Philly did play this game without their number 2 wide receiver, Devonta Smith. It's out with a hamstring. Jake Elliott, 3 for 3 on field goals, long 31, 4 for 4 on extra points. Braden Mann, just 1 punt on the night for 54 yards. You want to have one punt, you might as well make it count, right? Alright, Nakobe Dean led Philly's defense with 8 tackles and a sack. Cooper DeJean, 6 tackles, 2 passes defense. Quinyon Mitchell, 5 tackles and a pass defense. C.J. Gardner-Johnson, 5 tackles and a forced fumble. Isaiah Rodgers, 4 tackles and a fumble. Reed Blankenship with 3 solo tackles. Zach Bond, 3 tackles. Darius Big Play Slay Jr., 3 tackles and a pass defense. Brandon Graham, and there's some news on him. He had 2 tackles, a sack, and a pass defense. But he later told Philadelphia media that he suffered a torn triceps in the win over the Rams and is now out for the season. So is this the end of the line for Brandon Graham? Because he did say he would retire at the end of this year. We shall see more updates on Brandon Graham soon. Okay, Milton Williams had 2 sacks and a fumble plus his 2 tackles. And for the LA Rams, Matt Stafford, 24-36, 243 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, 104.3 QB rating. 1 carry, 15 yards. Kyren Williams did pretty well, 16 carries, 72 yards, and a touchdown. And no catches for him. Alright, leading receivers are Puka Nacua, 9 catches, 117 on 13 targets. Cooper Kupp, 8 catches, 60 yards, and a touchdown on 11 targets. Tutu Atwell, 3 catches, 30 yards on 3 targets. And DeMarcus Robinson, 2 catches, 15 yards, and a touchdown on 3 targets. Joshua Carty, 0 for 1 on field goals, 2 for 2 on extra points. Ethan Evans, 4 punts, averaging 39.8, long punt 48, with 1 inside the 20-yard line. Leading tackler for LA is Christian Rozeboom with 12. Rookie Jarrett Verse had 7. Omar Speights, another rookie, also had 7 tackles. Kobe Turner, 5 tackles. Kobe Durant, 4 tackles, all solo. Cam Curl, 7 tackles. Braden Fisk had the lone sack in the game for the Rams, plus 4 tackles. Total yards, Philadelphia 481, LA 290. Pass yards favors LA 198 to 167, but the rushing numbers easily favor the Philadelphia Eagles. 314. That is not a typo. 314 versus 92 for the Rams. First downs nearly split. 24 for the Eagles, 23 for the Rams. Philly 9 of 15 on 3rd down, 0 for 1 on 4th down. Here's the big reason why LA lost this game. They were 0 for 8 on 3rd down. So they were worse than the Browns. But they were a perfect 3 for 3 on 4th down. 4 penalties, 52 yards for the Eagles. 1 sack taken for 12. No lost fumbles, no interceptions, and 1 punt. 4 penalties, 38 yards for the Rams. 5 sacks taken for 45. 1 lost fumble, no interceptions, 4 punts. Time of possession, 33 minutes, 41 seconds for the Eagles. 26 minutes, 19 seconds for the Rams. Closing line, Philadelphia -3, over under 48.5. I picked the Eagles to win straight up and against the spread, and I got both. So now I am 8-4 straight up and 5-7 ATS as we come to the final game of the week. It was the Harbaugh Bowl on Monday Night Football, as John Harbaugh's Baltimore Ravens defeat younger brother Jim Harbaugh and his Los Angeles Chargers 30-23. Baltimore will move ahead of LA in the standings at 8-4, while the Chargers drop to 7-4. And these are the top two wild card teams in the AFC as of right now. We'll be taking a look at the latest playoff picture momentarily. First, individual numbers for the Ravens. Lamar Jackson again didn't have to throw all that much. 16-22 for 177 with 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, and a 126.5 QB rating. He also added 8 rushes, 15 yards, and a rush touchdown. Derrick Henry, 24 carries, 140 yards, nearly 6 yards per run. Justice Hill, 4 carries, 55 yards, and a touchdown. Zay Flowers, 5 catches, 62 yards on 8 targets. Mark Andrews, 5 for 44 and a touchdown on 5 targets. And Rashad Bateman, 2 for 43 and a touchdown on 3 targets. Justin Tucker, 1 for 1 on field goals, long 45, 3 for 3 on extra points. Jordan Stout, 3 punts averaging 54.3, long punts 62, with 1 inside the 20-yard line. Top tackler for Baltimore is Malik Harrison. He had 13 tackles. Nate Wiggins, 6 tackles all solo, and 2 passes defense. Ardarius Washington had 4 solo tackles. Trenton Simpson, 3 solo tackles. Chris Board, 4 tackles total. Marlon Humphrey and Tre'Davious White each had 3 tackles and a pass defense. Brandon Stevens added a sack. Kyle Van Noy added a sack and a forced fumble. And for Jim Harbaugh's LA Chargers, Justin Herbert was 21 of 36 for 218 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions, 75.9 passer rating. But he did have 4 rushes, 29 yards, and a rushing touchdown. And you have a couple ex-Ravens in the fold for this one. J.K. Dobbins, 6 carries, 40 yards. And Gus Edwards, 9 carries, 11 yards, and a touchdown. Okay. Ladd McConkey, 6 catches, 83 yards on 6 targets. Will Dissly, 4 for 47 on 4 targets. Josh Palmer, 3 catches, 38 yards on 8 targets. Jalen Reagor, 2 catches, 20 yards on 4 targets. And J.K. Dobbins, 3 for 19 on 5 targets. Cameron Dicker, 3 for 3 on field goals, long 52, 2 for 2 on extra points. J.K. Scott, 4 punts, averaging 41.3, long punt 45, with 2 inside the 20. Okay. The top tackler for LA is Deion Henley, 10 tackles. Nick Neiman, 8 tackles. Tarheeb Still, 7 tackles. Poona Ford, 5 tackles. Khalil Mack, 4 tackles. He came into this game with a groin injury, but eventually did play. Joey Bosa also with 4 tackles. Derwin James, 6 tackles and a sack. And Elijah Molden, 4 tackles and a pass defense. Total yards, Ravens 389, Chargers 285. Passing yards favored LA, 202, 177. Rush yards favored Baltimore, 212 to 83. Both teams had 19 first downs. 8 minutes 15, or rather 8 of 15 third downs for the Ravens, 3 of 3 on 4th downs as well. 5 of 14 on third down for the Chargers, 2 for 2 on fourth down. 9 penalties, 102 yards for Baltimore, 1 sack taken for no loss, 0 lost fumbles, 0 interceptions, 3 punts. 7 penalties, 62 yards for the Chargers, 4 sacks taken for 16, no lost fumbles, no interceptions, 4 punts. Time of possession nearly split right down the middle. 30 minutes, 57 seconds for the Ravens. 29 minutes, 3 seconds for the Chargers. Closing line was Baltimore -3, over under 50.5, and they just got over that total with 53 points. I took Baltimore both straight up and to cover, and I finished the week at 9-4 in my straight up picks, and 6-7 in my spread picks. Alright, I will be right back and I'll tell you what my record is. It's not this one. So overall, my record after 12 weeks is 117-62 in my straight up picks. That's still about 65%. And 90-87-2 in my spread pick. So I'm just over 50% in my spread picks. Alright. We'll be taking a look at the NFL playoff race in just a moment. But first, let's go ahead and jump into my Week 12 power rankings. Or Week 13, rather, power rankings. Starting at the bottom and working our way up. Number 32 still is the New York Giants at 2-9. They play the Cowboys in Dallas on Thanksgiving. That will be the second game on Thursday. Holding steady at number 31, also at 2-9, are the Las Vegas Raiders. They play Black Friday in Kansas City. Dropping the number 30 pretty much where they should be, if not lower, are the Jacksonville Jaguars at 2-9. They host the Houston Texans. Down 2 spots to number 29 are the New England Patriots at 3-9. They play host to the Indianapolis Colts. The Carolina Panthers stay at number 28 for the third week in a row. They are 3-8 and they host the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Up 3 spots to number 27, you've got the Dallas Cowboys at 4-7. They play on Thanksgiving Day at home against the New York Giants. Up 3 spots to number 26, you've got the 3-8 Tennessee Titans visiting the nation's capital to play the Washington Commanders this week. Number 25, down 3 spots from last week, you've got the Chicago Bears at 4-7. They'll play the first of the 3 Thanksgiving Day games against the Lions at Ford Field. Down a spot to 24, you've got the New York Jets at 3-8. They host Seattle. Number 23, moving up 4 spots and pretty much trading with the Jets, are the Cleveland Browns at 3-8. They play Denver on the road on Monday night. Up 3 spots to number 22 are the New Orleans Saints at 4-7. They'll host the LA Rams. Holding steady at number 21 are the Indianapolis Colts at 5-7. They play the Patriots in Foxborough this week. Down 3 spots to number 20, despite not playing, you've got the Atlanta Falcons at 6-5. They play the LA Chargers on Sunday. Number 19 and holding steady are the Cincinnati Bengals at 4-7. They'll host the Pittsburgh Steelers. Down 2 spots to number 18, you've got the Los Angeles Rams at 5-6. They're in New Orleans this week, taking on the Saints. Up 3 spots to number 20 are the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at 5-6. They play the Carolina Panthers in Charlotte this week. Down 3 spots to number 16 are the Houston Texans at 7-5. They are in Jacksonville in a get-right game. Up 3 spots to number 15 are the Miami Dolphins at 5-6. They will play the Green Bay Packers at Lambeau Field on Thanksgiving night, the last of the 3 Turkey Day games. Down 5 spots to number 14 are the San Francisco 49ers at 5-6. Tough game on Sunday night at Orchard Park against the Buffalo Bills. Down a spot to number 13 are the Arizona Cardinals at 6-5. Tough game coming up next at Minnesota. Down 2 spots to number 12, the LA Chargers at 7-4. Visiting the Atlanta Falcons this week. No change at number 11 for the Washington Commanders at 7-5. They will host the Tennessee Titans. And just like Houston, this is a get-right game. Moving 4 spots into the top 10 are the Seattle Seahawks at 6-5. They visit the Jets in New York this week. Also moving into the top 10, up 6 spots to number 9 are the Denver Broncos at 7-5. They play host to the Browns on Monday night. Down a couple to number 8 are the Minnesota Vikings at 9-2. They host the Arizona Cardinals next. The Baltimore Ravens move up 1 spot to number 7 at 8-4. They play host to the Philadelphia Eagles in our game of the week. Down 3 spots to number 6 are the Pittsburgh Steelers at 8-3. They play the Cincinnati Bengals as they conclude their Ohio road trip. Up 2 spots to number 5, you got the Green Bay Packers at 8-3. They host the Miami Dolphins in the third of the 3 Thanksgiving Day games. Inching up a spot to number 4 are the Kansas City Chiefs at 10-1. They host the Las Vegas Raiders on Black Friday at Arrowhead. Up 1 spot to number 3 are the Philadelphia Eagles at 9-2. They are in Baltimore for a real tough game with Lamar Jackson and the Ravens this week. Again, it's our game of the week. Number 2, no change with the Buffalo Bills at 9-2. They host the injury-riddled 49ers on Sunday night. And sticking in the number 1 spot, the Detroit Lions at 10-1. They will host the Chicago Bears on Thanksgiving Day. Alright, one more order of business to go through, and that's the updated NFL playoff races in both the AFC and NFC, as we are now at the 2/3 of the way through the season as of right now. So let's start off with the AFC. Your division leaders are the Kansas City Chiefs, Buffalo Bills, Pittsburgh Steelers, and Houston Texans. Kansas City still sits in the number 1 spot at 10-1. 3-0 versus the West, 5-1 in the AFC, 488 strength of schedule, 455 strength of victory. Number 2 is the Buffalo Bills at 9-2, who owns the head-to-head tie with Kansas City. 3-0 versus the East, 7-2 in the AFC, 484 strength of schedule, 450 strength of victory. Number 3 is the Pittsburgh Steelers, 8-3, 1-1 versus the North and 5-2 in the AFC. 432 strength of schedule, 462 strength of victory. And at number 4 are the Houston Texans at 7-5, 3-1 versus the South, 5-2 in the AFC. 481 strength of schedule, 400 strength of victory. The Ravens, Chargers, and Broncos would hold the 3 wild cards in the conference. Denver moves into the number 5 spot at 8-4. 2-2 versus the North, 5-4 in the AFC. 522 strength of schedule, and 522 strength of victory. The Los Angeles Chargers dropped back to number 6, 7-4 record, 2-1 versus the West, 5-3 in the AFC, 472 strength of schedule, 333 strength of victory. The last playoff spot currently belongs to the Denver Broncos at 7-5. 2-2 versus the West, 3-4 in the AFC. 481 strength of schedule, 325 strength of victory. On the outside looking in, you got the Miami Dolphins sitting in the number 8 spot at 5-6. 2-2 in the AFC, 2-2 in the AFC, 4-4 in the, or rather 2-2 in the East and 4-4 in the AFC. Sorry if I mixed that up for you. 427 strength of schedule, 263 strength of victory. The Indianapolis Colts come in at number 9 with a 5-7 record. 1-3 versus the South, 4-4 in the AFC. 560 strength of schedule, 418 strength of victory. In 10th place are the Cincinnati Bengals at 4-7. 1-2 versus the North, 2-5 in the AFC. 496 strength of schedule, 227 strength of victory. Ouch. You have a 3-way tie with the Browns, Jets, and Titans. Okay, Cleveland is 3-8, 2-1 versus the North, 3-3 in the AFC, 463 strength of schedule, 529 strength of victory. New York is also 3-8, 1-2 versus the East, 3-5 in the AFC, 516 strength of schedule, 371 strength of victory. And Tennessee is also 3-8, 1-1 versus the South, 3-4 in the AFC, 565 strength of schedule, 429 strength of victory. Cleveland wins the tiebreaker over both Tennessee and New York based on best win percentage in conference games. New York wins the tiebreaker over Tennessee based on head-to-head win percentage. So according to this would put Cleveland at number 11, New York at 12, and Tennessee at 13. The New England Patriots sit at number 14. 3-9 record, 1-3 versus the East, 2-6 in the AFC. 391 strength of schedule, 333 strength of victory. And there's a tie at the bottom of the conference with the Jaguars and Raiders. Jacksonville is 2-9 overall, 1-1 versus the South, 2-4 in the AFC. 581 strength of schedule, 333 strength of victory. Vegas, meanwhile, also 2-9, is 0-4 versus the West, 2-7 in the AFC, 540 strength of schedule, 478 strength of victory. Jacksonville wins the tiebreaker over Las Vegas based on best win percentage in conference games. Alright, over to the NFC. Your division leaders as of today, November 26th, would be the Lions, Eagles, Seahawks, and Falcons. Detroit leads the way. They are the top seed in the AFC at 10-1. 2-0 versus the North, 6-1 in the NFC. 488 strength of schedule, 491 strength of victory. The Philadelphia Eagles, presently sitting in the 2 spot, 9-2 record, 3-0 versus the East, 6-2 in the NFC. 410 strength of schedule, 390 strength of victory. The Seattle Seahawks take over the lead in the NFC West, and they are the present number 3 seed. 6-5 record, 2-2 versus the West, 3-4 in the NFC. 512 strength of schedule, 471 strength of victory. Record-wise, they are tied with the Atlanta Falcons in the 4 spot at 6-5. 4-1 versus the South, 6-2 in the NFC rather. 533 strength of schedule, 455 strength of victory. Seattle wins the tiebreaker over Atlanta based on head-to-head win percentage. Your 3 wild cards presently would be the Vikings, Packers, and Commanders. Minnesota presently in that number 5 spot at 9-2. 2-1 versus the North and 4-2 in the NFC. 439 strength of schedule, 386 strength of victory. The number 6 spot belongs to Green Bay at 8-3. 1-2 versus the North and 4-3 in the NFC. 528 strength of schedule, 411 strength of victory. And Washington hanging on for dear life with that 7th and final spot at 7-5. 2-2 versus the East, 5-3 in the NFC. 436 strength of schedule, 312 strength of victory. Outside the playoffs, you have the Arizona Cardinals at number 8 with a 6-5 record. 2-1 versus the West, 3-4 in the NFC. 566 strength of schedule, 439 strength of victory. Alright, next you've got a 3-way tie with the Buccaneers, Rams, and 49ers. Tampa Bay is 5-6, 1-2 versus the South, 5-3 in the NFC. 597 strength of schedule, 571 strength of victory. Los Angeles is 5-6, 2-1 versus the West, 3-5 in the NFC. 549 strength of schedule, 446 strength of victory. San Francisco is also 5-6, 1-3 versus the West, 3-5 in the NFC. 533 strength of schedule, 375 strength of victory. Tampa Bay owns the tiebreaker over Los Angeles based on best win percentage in conference games. The division tiebreaker was initially used to eliminate San Francisco, which brings us to the LA Rams. They own the tiebreaker over San Francisco based on head-to-head win percentage. And I think they would also own the head-to-head over Tampa Bay as well. But they are down in 11th because of the division tie with the Rams. So the Bucks are at 9, the Rams are at 10, and the Niners are 11. And then you got another 3-way tie with the Saints, Bears, and Cowboys. All 3 teams at 4-7. New Orleans is 2-3 in the South and 3-4 in the NFC. 516 strength of schedule, 364 strength of victory. Chicago is 0-2 in the North, 2-4 in the NFC. 464 strength of schedule, 295 strength of victory. And Dallas is 2-1 in the East, 2-5 in the NFC, 556 strength of schedule, 454 strength of victory. New Orleans wins the tiebreakers over both Chicago and Dallas, based on best win percentage in conference games. Chicago owns the tiebreaker over Dallas based on best win percentage in conference games. Pretty much the same thing I just said. Okay. That puts New Orleans at number 12, Chicago 13, and Dallas 14. The Carolina Panthers are at number 15 with a record of 3-8. 1-2 versus the South, 2-4 in the NFC. 463 strength of schedule, 242 strength of victory. And the New York Giants bring up the rear in the NFC with a record of 2-9. They are tied with the Raiders and Jaguars for the worst record in the league. 0-4 versus the East, 1-7 in the NFC. 528 strength of schedule, 409 strength of victory. And there you have it, folks, the Week 12 edition of the week that was. As we looked at all the player and team statistical numbers from all 13 games in Week 12. We also have my Week 13 power rankings and a look at the updated NFL playoff picture Of course, we began this video with a look at the latest college football rankings from the Associated Press and the AFCA Coaches Poll. Now again, the college football playoff rankings are set to be released later on tonight at about 7 or 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time. You can, of course, watch that on ESPN. I'll be there to watch it as well. And report back to you tomorrow during my Week 13 NFL picks, both straight up and against the spread. And then I will give you those latest CFP rankings. And we'll also look at the injury reports from the 3 Thanksgiving Day games, with the Chicago-Detroit game playing early, the New York Giants-Dallas Cowboys game being the middle game, and the primetime matchup between the Dolphins and the Packers. We'll look at the injury reports for all 6 of those teams. Call out here tomorrow. Okay, so that is it. Like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. Ring the bell and get notified every time I go live. Big Al signing off. Thanks for watching. Happy Thanksgiving early. And enjoy the pigskin. Peace out.